time. And Mr. Will Ramsey's been on here a million times before. You can go to the description, you find his books, his website, his Twitter. And I was just saying to him beforehand, and I'm aside from being very grateful that he's going to give a presentation because I still feel like absolute junk. He's going to give a presentation on the Knights of Malta. And again, guys, please come to the description, follow him on Twitter, go follow his podcast, go buy any of his books. They're all fantastic. But as I was just saying to you beforehand, I actually don't know anything about the Knights of Malta. I really don't know anything about the nitty gritty specifics of all the different organizations, Club of Rome, Council on Foreign Relations. I've always just rightfully or wrongfully, intelligently or lack thereof, always just kind of clumped them all in and viewed it as some sort of the compartmentalization equivalent of, instead of a military secret special access program, more of like the power elite. And I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know if they can be considered horizontal or vertically related, but I've always just looked at all of them, and my gut instinct's always been like that's there to cause confusion and pay attention to the bigger picture. But that is the entire extent of what I know about the Knights of Malta, other than I don't know how to spell it. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Mr. Ramsey. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back. Good to be
Of
with you
course.
again. I think our last show was December 2024, not too long ago, but I didn't know much about the Knights of Malta either. I've kind of lumped them in with the Knights Templar. They are different. It's a different order, but I kind of became more interested when I started seeing some of these other people that are in the Trump administration with these interesting tattoos and insignias. So I figured this is
Okay.
something I should learn more about. I'd
Absolutely.
done a show on the Pilgrim Society, which is a very important group of kind of the Anglo sphere, UK and the US. But this is also something that's more Catholic, so it's kind of involves the Catholic Church, and but it is, I think, very much present day because of what's happening in the Holy Land. Understanding the Knights of Malta and some of this stuff is really, believe it or not, timely. This organization is not decades old. It's not centuries old. It's a millennia old. It
Really?
goes back, yes, all the way back to the 11th or 12th century in during the Crusades, and as long with other orders within the Catholic Church. So these is a kind of a military. They're known as the Hospitallers, so they take their cue from Saint John, right, John the Baptist, but they've gotten this name, the Knights of Malta, because their location ended up in Malta. For people who may not know the geography, Italy is that kind of boot that comes down into the Mediterranean. Then there's Sicily, just right to the left of it, I guess it'd be west of the boot. And then underneath that is a small set of islands. That's Malta. So that's how you get the Knights of Malta. It has 13,500 members now. But what is really interesting is so many of these people that are in kind of our social groups are either Knights of the Sepulchre or Knights of Jerusalem or Knights of Malta. So you have the counselor. I don't know if you remember Mary Ann Conway or Kellyanne Conway,
Kelly, yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
She was the counselor to the president under 2016 to 2000. The new one, her name is Alina Habas. We'll see pictures of her. Her father is a big time member of the American version of the Knights of Malta. So he is, like, you think his title is chancellor or something like that. I have pictures of him in my presentation.
Kelly
But
and
it does.
sorry to interrupt. Kelly and Conway lived near my late grandmother, and when I would go and like babysit her in near outside of New York in like 2016, kind of look after her, she actually lived like 2 miles away, and you would see like convoys of just blacked out Suburbans with huge antennas and shit. Yeah,
Well, yeah. So it's an important position. Like, I
yeah,
think she
yeah.
did a lot of media stuff. So this new woman who you'll see, she is in that position, and she's kind of networked with all these other people. But her dad, she's actually kind of interesting, kind of like a different kind of Catholic than what we would see in the States. Her father is a Chaldean Catholic, and this is kind of like an old designation before the kind of modern Middle Eastern nations were shaped. She comes from kind of a different ethnic background or something, almost like an Assyrian Catholic or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of survived Islam and kind of did that. Anyway, so he's a doctor in the United States. His name is, you'll see a picture of him in my presentation, but just to show kind of the present day meaning and why I think this is important. And for people to understand. And I have a very kind of neutral view. This is not something I'm like exposing like this is a paranoid,
Yeah.
like a dark group. They're actually very public. The Knights of Malta, you can go to their website and check them out and find out their people and do also. Maybe my presentations will increase their membership. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I do think it's just important to understand, especially the stark shift between Biden to Trump. These two totally different. Hegseth has a huge tattoo of the Knights of Jerusalem. He
Mhm.
has it on his like upper right hand chest, and he's friends with a lot of these guys. Another Knight of Malta is Eric Prince, if you remember Blackwater.
Oh, okay.
So that's a Knight of Malta, and we'll see that John Roberts, who is the head of the Supreme Court, who inaugurated Trump, Knight of Malta. You'll see pictures of that. And then just today, we have, well, this is actually just from yesterday. This is Marco Rubio, and
I
he
saw
is
that
in,
last night. Yeah.
yeah, he's in Jerusalem, Catholic. He's a Catholic. He might be a Knight of Malta. I don't know. They don't disclose their full membership list. You get kind of membership lists, but he's in front of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, and it's traditionally identified as the place of the tomb of Jesus. I think he's with either Greek or Catholic. Catholic. I think that's a wide variety of different Christian orders behind him, these men, just by the different in their
Hmm.
dress. So this is present, like this is going on. So he's in Secretary of State. He was in there to visit, I think, Netanyahu, and then they're negotiating in Saudi Arabia, right, with Lavrov about the Ukrainian war, hopefully drawing it down. So people should be in your prayers. Like, we want
Absolutely.
this to end.
Absolutely.
Want this to end.
Dude, those drone videos just
Oh, there's millions of people dead. It's a totally useless war, and
it's
Biden is some of those people in the other administration could probably be drawn up on war criminal
you
charges.
know it's screwed when the guys I know, the Delta Force guys, the Praetorian Guard, the guys who don't think twice about doming somebody, you know it's screwed when they say this is a senseless war and these young men are losing their lives. That's how you know it's dark. Because these guys they're not pussies. They don't, they're like, hey, the world revolves around war. When they're saying this is useless slaughter, that's what gives me pause.
I think it was actually, I'm so cynical and I understand the nihilism that I think it was their intention to depopulate that area and
No,
that
I 1,000%
dominated.
believe that, and I've talked to not the Delta guy. I've talked to some special forces guys about that, and that they entirely believe it's to destroy that
It's all
area
intentional.
as well
Destroy
as that
Europe. Yeah.
population.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that
That makes sense.
specific genetic stock they're trying to delete.
Yeah. I mean, it's really horrible. So this is Alina Habas. You see her in the Oval Office. So this is very recent stuff, January 2025. This is her on inauguration. So this is the counselor to the president, whose dad is a member of the Knights of Malta. There's Roberts, Knight of Malta, at the inauguration. You can see him here on the right, being inaugurating Trump and the family. So I think that's very interesting. And there's kind of a tie on. It's not full. I don't have my presentation fully time ordered, but I think this is an interesting guy. He recently passed away in 2020. His name was Virgil C. DeChant. He was from the U.S., but it just shows this overlapping kind of power structure within the Catholic Church of these guys who aren't just Knights of Columbus. This is a really interesting guy. I don't think you'd ever see him on a news piece or anything like that, but he's a very talented, accomplished man. But you see his honors. He had 16 honorary degrees, named a Knight of Sovereign Military Order of Malta. That's the Knights of Malta, right? The shortened version. A Knight of St. Gregory the Great, the Grand Cross of the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre. That's what Marco Rubio was in front of, right? The Holy Sepulchre. Knight of the Grand Cross of the Order of Pius VI, the highest honor granted to Catholic layman. The time of his death, Deschamps was serving as a consigliere at the Vatican City State. And so, kind of like among maybe conspiracy circles or hidden power, parapolitics, there's the three kind of big power centers, which is DC, City of London,
London and Vatican,
and
the
Vatican.
yeah the big
And it is in, yeah, and the City of London, and people maybe before our time, but the Bank of England was very powerful. It lost power, kind of that its authority after World War II, in kind of going along with the general decline of the British Empire. But that City of London was, I mean, all of these people came out of London. I mean, it's really incredible when you look at how many people are associated with the city of London. Gandhi was a lawyer who was through one of the Inns of Court, through this place that's modeled literally the Temple Church in the city of London is modeled on the Holy Sepulchre and was founded by a guy who was from Jerusalem in the 12th century. So these people are drawing this kind of really old
Yeah.
connections back to the Holy Land. But I think that this guy Deschamps was just somebody sent this to me. So it's interesting. The Knights of Columbus became much more powerful. If you see this guy, the Knights of Columbus added 5,000 councils, membership rose to 1.6 million, and the assets of the Knights grew 1,000%. They have like market power. So like their life insurance, people don't know how life insurance works. The money gets pooled in.
It's kind of like an endowment for like a
exactly
like a big like a big Ivy League.
Yeah, but this one's big, like billions and billions of dollars. So that's kind of interesting. Somebody sent me something. Another Knight of Malta is Al Haig. If you remember Al Haig, we'll see a lot of names if you're familiar with American history. But Haig was also a board member of MGM and approved the film Red Dawn. So this is the involvement in culture creation. So some of these bigwigs are literally involved in creating culture, and Red Dawn was a real anti-communist. Anti-communist
Wolverines
kind of propaganda element, war film. So it's kind of interesting. So Al Haig, this is one of the Rothschilds, and you'll see this distinctive sign of the Maltese cross. It's called the Maltese cross. So he's wearing a very prominent, it's red usually. So he's part of it. And a lot of these guys, the Rothschilds are a powerful group, but they grew up as kind of bankers and servitors for old landed families in Europe. And you'll see some of these names in this presentation, depending upon how much time we got. But we can get really in detail. But some of the names you'll hear that might sound familiar: Turn and Taxis, Saxe, Coburg, Gotha, Habsburg, Corsini in Italy, really famous families in France, England. King Charles III, the current king, is a member of the Knight of Malta and has Maltese connections. So does Pete Thiel, believe it or not.
Okay.
I don't know if he's a Knight of Malta, but he wants Maltese citizenship. So I would assume that he knows that. He's actually good buddies with Eric Prince. And that whole stuff that goes on with Palantir is military applications.
100%.
So that makes
100 trillion percent. Yeah, and they created Lavender, the AI system that the IDF's been using for the last year and a half, 2 years.
I think another one, Hello Daddy, or some stuff.
Yeah. Where is
AI
Daddy?
killed about 6 famous chefs. Andre's Spanish name I can't remember, but
Really?
they blew them away. Yeah. And it was, it didn't hit the mainstream news, of course. Just another Knight of Malta. These two brothers and sister, their dad, Casey and Callie Means, they're around. Another really famous or infamous member of the Knights of Malta was Jimmy Savile. I've done a couple shows on that guy. And you'll see him if you can't. You may not be able to see in this, but this is Pope John Paul II, I believe, 2012. But you'll see the Knight of Maltese cross on the chest of Savile there. You kind of can look in there. And then he kind of has the Maltese. I think it's red and white, which are their colors, but I think that's what he's wearing as well. But he was, I think, a witch. I think it's fair to say a male witch or a warlock.
He was an evil man.
Yeah, like almost incomprehensible.
Almost, if it was a character in a movie, you'd say it was a little campy.
Yeah, he took it to the most extreme thing, like amazing. And there's very interesting hand signs he makes. I have to dig up my old files on Savile, but you'll see kind of overlapping things, initiatory hand gestures that are almost like Masonic, but I think they came out of the Catholic Church and kind of drifted into occultism. But you'll see that here. But he, for people who don't know, Jimmy Savile was buried facing east at 45 degrees, which is how a witch gets buried. So you can go look up. You can just Google his casket right now. And he basically is telling you he's a witch or whatever you want to call it, a warlock or anything. One of the interesting things about the Knights of Malta is kind of its legacy through the Renaissance. And one of the more famous things in Malta, in the Isle of Malta, is this kind of beheading of St. John the Baptist by Caravaggio, who was also a member, who had an interesting life. And we'll see pictures of that later. But here's Charles III as a member. They've had like some open kind of frictions between themselves and the Pope. They're not like a standard order. So it's like they have, the Knights of Malta have some kind of allotment by the Pope, but they're not like the Jesuits or the Trappists or the Dominicans, where they have like pure authority. They actually have their own kind of nation state, and they actually have a seat at the United Nations. So it's a really interesting group. And you see here, this is, for us, Malta is family. That's the King Charles III saying that. So you see this connection between him and the knight. This is a Renaissance Knight of Malta with a very prominent Maltese cross. So there's a lot of pictures of these kind of Maltese knights, and you'll see their history. And they actually they go back to the Crusades. They were then kind of kicked out by Islam, and they went to Cyprus, which is south of Turkey, and then from there to Rhodes, which is kind of west of Turkey, and then they got kicked out of there and ended up in Malta. There's a very famous battle between the Maltese Knights and the Ottoman Empire in the 16th century, where a very small contingent of knights held off like a 15,000 man invasion force and won.
Oh,
and I think it's Mel Gibson's trying in pre-production making a movie about it, so it's kind of interesting. Prince Charles visits Malta to commemorate courage shown in Second World War. This is just like other orders that overlap, like that we don't, maybe if you're a Catholic, you might know all these, but this is the Constantinian order, which is from Italy. And for people who aren't Catholic, they may not know the breadth of the U.S. is such like a tapestry of different Catholic and Protestant orders amongst other stuff. But, the Catholic Church is the church in a lot of countries. Like they don't have a lot of, so like Argentina or Brazil, it is the Catholic Church. So its power is different than like maybe the other like during the schism they had, what is it, the Eastern Orthodox Church. It's because the Catholic Church dominated the New World. Really, anything other than the United States is Catholic, to my understanding. So they had a lot of wealth went back into the Catholic Church in Spain. And this is an interesting guy right here, British Grandmaster of the Knights of Malta. His name is Andrew Bertie. He's on the course to be the first head of the Knights Chivalric Order to be considered for sainthood. So that's him on the left. And you can, that's, which Pope? I can't, Pope Benedict the 16th. But you see him, you see on the left, the red, but these prominent white Maltese cross, that's what it's called, is the Maltese cross. And it's interesting, kind of the Maltese history bled into American culture, because if you've seen the Maltese Falcon, right? Have you heard of that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the Maltese Falcon is based upon this falcon that was, let me reshare the screen. The Maltese Falcon was something that one of the Holy Roman emperors asked for the island to give him, was a falcon, and then that was like their payment for the use of the Isle of Malta. But you'll see this is the kind of prominent symbol, and they have it symbolizes 8 virtues: loyalty, piety, honesty, courage, honor, glory, contempt for death, solidarity towards the poor and the sick, and respect for the church. So it kind of has meaning. And you see this kind of color motif goes all the way through the West, things like that. And here's a list of initial memberships. These were compiled by somebody else, but it's like a list of who's who. You see the Dulles brothers are in there. You see
James Angleton.
Yeah, Angleton. A lot of these guys are Catholics, So Avery Dulles was, I think, John Foster Dulles' son, who became a cardinal.
Walter Schellenberg.
Henry Luce, right? So the Luce of Time Life.
Heinrich Himmler, Pat Buchanan. Jeez.
Yeah.
Bill Casey.
So Himmler's, no, it's something else. So these Nazis are involved in this, which makes perfect sense, because some of these orders they had this kind of chivalric Teutonic Knights things. And some people, the critics of this kind of stuff, they say they're LARPing, they're live action role players. or Christo-fascist is another one that I use. But these are kind of left-wing terms. I don't think they're LARPing. I think they're very serious Christians. I think they're dedicated to the church. And I think they're doing good works. Like they literally show up at places of conflict. I believe they're in Gaza. They show up and actually, give people food, and they're part of this kind of thing.
Sure.
So that's their majority. The other thing is, it's like when I did the show, I haven't done it with you, but the show on Pilgrim Society, we have kind of public diplomacy. So we know the secretaries of state, right? So like Marco Rubio's going travel there. But this is kind of like private diplomacy,
Sure.
where all these guys are in here and still communicating. It's not above board. It's not necessarily really furtive or sinister. It's just that they're friends in a different network.
Sure. Informal kind of back room.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Tip O'Neill, if you are
Mhm.
from
J. Edgar Hoover.
Massachusetts. Yeah.
Good Lord.
Juan Perón, the Peronistas. So this is like international. Franz von Papen was kind of a rival for Hitler.
Frank Sinatra.
So it's Frank Sinatra. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. This is the organization chart. So you kind of see how the Supreme Pontiff, how it kind of branches out, but it's an order of the Catholic Church, but not directly under it, is my understanding. But so they have this is the original donation of the Isle of Malta by Charles V. That's the guy who asked for this Maltese falcon as payment. That's all the payment he wanted. I guess their falcons are famous, so it's kind of like a specialty thing. This is actually a recent picture I got off the internet about one of their buildings in Malta, in the Isle of Malta. And it says, His Majesty Victor Bourbon, King of the Maltese. So you see that red and white motif. There's the Queen, right? So this is the mother of King Charles. She has her Maltese cross on. And you see that there's women are allowed in the order. They're called dames. Okay. So they have a kind of like set aside. So it's male. It's still split, male and female, but there still are people involved that are allowed to be involved in this. So that's it. Here's a notorious person, Ghislaine Maxwell, with the nominee as ambassador to Malta. So they're kind of mixing in elite circles. And a lot of the CI players, if you remember Gladio, these kind of stay behind groups, a lot of them are overlap with the Knights of Malta. And it makes sense. There's like stories within the original CIA that these guys kind of thought of themselves as Christian knights, fighting off kind of the horde of communism.
Godless communism,
like Yeah, godless communism. So that's the guy from South Africa. Knight of Malta, right? So like this is kind of an overlap. I forgot what's his name. It's
Nelson Mandela.
Thank you very much. I don't know who the guy on the right is.
No.
This is the Isle of Malta, a picture of taking of the Malta in 1530. You see the prominent colors and Maltese cross. And then this is kind of overlapping with the Pilgrim Society. You see these other kind of orders that people may not know much about. And then the overlap with Le Cercle, right, which is another kind of, that's a truly kind of fascist group. But I wouldn't say that the Knights, I mean, the critics say that, but I think it's ridiculous. I think it's a religious order. I think it's a fully functioning religious order. Of course, they have like tax-free status, international things. They have their own passports. So being a member, I think, would probably make your life a lot easier, especially the connections. That's Dave Rockefeller, second from the right. So you see these kind of famous names, the Habsburgs. This was one of the people, he's the architect of, this is from Darren online. His ideas, this kind of European ideas. He's a Knight of Malta, also Opus Dei. I have to do a show on Opus Dei.
Yeah.
Which is like that's
another one, like I know the name and nothing more.
Really traditional Catholic view is my understanding, and international, and has an impact. Like I was talking to a guy from Argentina. He said Opus Dei like rules, like everybody who's in power in Argentina is Opus Dei. So that makes sense. A lot of Italians too in Argentina and Spaniards. This is kind of the weird overlap. Is this is a very famous intelligence agent. His name is Reinhard Galen, and there he is with his Knight of Malta cross, right? And this was somebody who they coveted. He was kind of friendly. He met with Dulles, but he was kind of running Hitler's intel into the Soviet Union. And this was like his, he was also a Knight of Malta, like Himmler. It's weird. So these guys who are adversaries also had kind of connections. So that's Galen. This is what Malta looks like in the middle of the Mediterranean. So you see there's two main islands, Malta and Gozo, and the main city is Valletta. And then there's a real smaller one. I think it's called Camino. But not big, 5 miles. It's probably 10 miles across, 15 miles if that's beautiful, like right in the center of the Mediterranean. I know people have been there. They say it's really nice. But this is their main cathedral, St. John's in Valletta, and 400 tombstones of the knights and officers of the Order of St. John of Jerusalem. Each tombstone is inlaid by a colored marble slab bearing crest, coat of arms, and epitaph of buried knight. So it's really beautifully rendered. Like, this is an amazing piece of history right here if you like history.
It's incredible, yeah.
Yeah. And then we talked about Caravaggio's masterpiece. You'll see that. But my understanding is that you see the skull and crossbones. The Knights of Malta were piratical, is my understanding. I have to kind of see more of that aspect. But as they were moving through these islands, they would be involved in shipping. So that famous skull and crossbones that these pirates would put up on their flag, I think the Knights of Malta were partially part of it. I don't want to besmirch their reputation, but I would have to look more into that. But that's what I was told. That's why that skull and crossbone is. And I don't know why the Star of Raphan or whatever Star of David is there, but anyway, a lot of information and knowledge came back through these guys from the the Templars, arguably, and that's the whole story about the Templars. They were wrapped up, I think, in the 14th century. They were the first international bankers, different than the Knights of Malta, Knights of Hospitallers of Malta. The Templars were alleged to bring back Baphomet and some of this old kind of Middle Eastern black magic type stuff. And then Jacques de Molay was the guy when they wrapped up the Knights of Templar. That was the guy who was like the last order. And it kind of, there's like the de Molay order in the modern Masons. So like it kind of continued on this kind of.
What do you mean wrapped up? It ended?
Well, I get my understanding is the Templars became more and more powerful, right?
Got it.
And they were international bankers, and you could get a writ, put your gold in a bank in Jerusalem, get a writ, and carry that writ to Paris and give it back, and they give you gold. So they became kind of a very powerful banking with a lot of lands and things, and it became a threat to some of the, aristocratic powers and the kings. And so there was kind of a battle. And then they really, like, I think it was a trick. I think they tricked de Molay. I forgot who the king was of France. And then they took all their money. And then they went underground. And supposedly the Templars they went to the St. Clair Church or whatever that church is outside of Edinburgh, and like built stuff and kind of like were remnants, but not as organized as they were before. And supposedly got into piracy as well. That's kind of a side story.
Sure.
But I don't know if there's any open Templars around. But if you see this is Caravaggio's masterpiece of the beheading of St. John. And that's in this chapel. And you see the prominent Knights of Malta crosses there, right? And the colors on the cross. But that's priceless. It's a priceless. This is it right here. The beheading of John the Baptist. Priceless painting. And this is a painting in the Uffizi, right? So that's in Venice. It's in Florence, in Italy, and you'll see the guy pointing to his Maltese cross, right? That silver Maltese cross. I think that he's wearing a Maltese pendant too. So that's what a Knight of Malta would have looked like back then. And this is Sammy Davis Jr., right? Hand sign, Maltese cross. So now they weren't. I guess anybody could be a member. It didn't seem to be very nasty racism or something like that. So they kind of bled into this kind of movie. I forgot the Umbrella Corporation was
Yeah, I don't
part
know
of
what movie it's from. I know
zombie
the
movie.
term of like Umbrella Corp is just kind of like your fictional catch-all for just big evil giant
Yeah.
megacorp. But I
So
didn't.
you
Yeah,
see these colors here.
that's the sign though.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a
Jeez.
zombie movie. So then we talked about this guy, Virgil, whatever his name was. But this is another one. This is Patrick E. Kelly, Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus, and then being admitted into the Order of Malta. So at that same church, he's probably in Malta right now. So these guys are very serious. This guy was like, I mean, the amount of money that this guy has a great CV. But I think he was like military. United States Navy, 24 years, JAG Corp, so he's a lawyer. And then very accomplished, but I think there was something like how much money was under services, like billions of dollars. I wish I could see that. So it's a lot. So you see this overlap between these orders, these knighthood orders. I think they take themselves very seriously. Oh, here it is. Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus, 1.9 million members, 15,000 councils, $109 billion in life insurance.
That's all right. Yeah, I think Harvard's like what 20 or 30.
Yeah,
Damn.
no, that's real power. So
That's
these are kind of the real power. They don't brag about it, but you could. That's more than like the general income of like Guatemala or something like
yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah,
you're getting a GDP. You're getting a national GDP.
yeah. No, it's bigger than half the countries in the world, probably. Just an old 16th century painting. So it's like I've talked about this millennia old group. This is it. So this are like people, you see the Knights of Malta, these cross on these guys. 900-year history. So the full name, I think, official name is the Sovereign Military Hospitaller Order of St. John of Jerusalem, of Rhodes, and of Malta. So it's a lot of words. And then this is the current head. It's a guy from Canada. He's making this hand gesture over his breast. That is meaning to other initiates that he's initiated. So he's been initiated somewhere. I don't know if it's the Knights of Malta has a standard initiation. I suppose they do. But he's kind of telling the world he is. And you see the prominent Maltese cross around his neck, shoulder, and then in the background, I believe that it's St. John baptizing Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So famously, we must do this to fulfill all righteousness, right? John Dunlap is his name. 66. This is fairly recent, 2023. First professed knight from overseas. So you see him on the left here. So they do a lot of this stuff here. So it's St. John. And there's mimic orders. And I think that's kind of a problem in the Catholic Church is some of these guys want to create their own orders. Maybe they can't get through to become a Jesuit or a Dominican, so they make their own fake stuff. So I think there's fake Knight of Malta orders out there, and that's what this is really about. That's what he's saying. And then the famous members like Juan Carlos of Spain, King Charles III, Castro, that's the Bourbon family, Umberti Roman, and then Andrew Bertie is the guy we saw that he's getting ready for sainthood, or they're trying to prep him for sainthood. So you see a lot of these kind of famous names from European history. Dulles, Donovan, and Casey. So Bill Casey, if you remember, he is a member of the Knight of Malta. And you see them here. This is St. Peter's Basilica, or this is the cathedral. They're in the center here with the Knights of Maltese Cross. There was some kind of like reorganization or something that happened a couple years ago. They got dissolved and then a new constitution. But you see all the members here, like they're all in the regalia. So this isn't like three guys.
No,
these are
legit.
Legit. Yeah. And like I said, overlapping with other orders, and we'll see that. Just kind of, this isn't something you see on TV. They don't care enough about this, and this is important because Trump made some very intense. Even when I did this presentation before Trump, but he says he's going to put a foothold into Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is something I don't know if you saw
This,
that
no,
thing where he made.
this is some like Holy Land shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
no,
this is like
this is like high
Crusader-ish.
order stuff.
Yeah, this is like Crusader stuff.
Yeah,
So he's surrounded by people who might be giving him that advice, like Hegseth,
yeah,
which we will see a picture of Hegseth here in a
yeah.
minute. It's crazy, but I
It's
don't know if you.
it's
I don't know.
wild. It's not your normal like military industrial complex. Like, yeah, I get it. We're knocking over. Of course, we want to go blow up the cartels. It's good for business. But then it's like
Yeah,
this is like a step above that. This is like this is
agreed.
Holy Land shit.
Yeah, no, it's like old. It's heavy duty. Yeah, I think that he made that announcement off the cuff in front of Netanyahu's
I think he
face.
did too. I don't think that was
Yeah,
because Netanyahu, whether good or bad, he definitely looked
he
unprepared.
wasn't nodding along. He was kind of like going like this.
He was doing this, yeah.
He's doing
It
like,
was
"What are you talking about? We didn't
what
agree on this."
which is weird
And
in itself, regardless of what Trump said, whether it's about Gaza or that he likes cheeseburgers. The fact that he would like it's like podcasting. Like if I ever pulled something out on like one thing I never do is like I never ambush anybody. I never do any. I think it's I think it's gross, and I think it's how you probably lose guests. That's whatever it was. That's a deviation from I don't know, be it just norms and or respect. Like that's wild, and regardless of what the topic was, that he would do something and put him on like that. Let alone something like we're gonna go take Gaza. So like regardless of what he said, the very fact that he did that to Netanyahu, that's kind of wild in itself. And then it just gets
so,
so much crazier when you explain, well, then what was that? He said taking Gaza, and you like Hegseth like cross Jerusalem. You're like, oh, this is kind of some wild shit.
yeah, I
Excuse my
mean, I
French.
think they're making. I know you're right, but I think that even Rubio at the Holy Sepulchre is like, "I'm making a statement. I want a picture of me here now."
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yes,
I'm not going to go here on my downtime. I'm going here as a member of the Secretary of State. Take my picture as a
yeah,
Catholic.
yeah.
And I think that Trump. I mean, you want to talk about kind of a unorthodox negotiating style. When he said that, it threw all the analysts for a loop. People like, what is he doing? I mean, if you wanted to get some free press, do that off the cuff. And you would have to assume the Israelis expect the Gaza to be in their realm of control. So he's kind of saying, "A giant, no, you're not. I'm gonna do it myself or my way over
Some
your authority."
some of like the super uber conservative people I follow on Twitter just for like shits and giggles. The ones who are it's like some people Bernie can never be far left enough. There are some people that's like Trump is never far right enough. Oh, it's the Jews, it's all whatever, and you can debate the merits or lack thereof. What was wild was seeing them not immediately jumping on it and being like what their normal kind of rhetoric is like, oh, Trump's a foot soldier of the Jews. You saw them to dismay of their followers being like, this is weird because Netanyahu doesn't look too psyched. So the entire thing is interesting.
I think it plays into this Knights of Malta. There's something else going
Yeah.
on where they're not going to just like just rubber stamp anything the Israelis or
No.
Netanyahu says. And I think that's what it was. And I think that it was somebody interpreted it as a almost like coup de grace on Netanyahu because if the war stops, Netanyahu's whole reason did, or his
To
whole reason is the
a
war.
wartime
So
president.
once the
Yeah.
war stops, nobody needs Netanyahu anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like if we stop this war, your whole authority.
That
It's
goes
not
all
really
you.
war. It's
That
a
goes
lie.
all. Yeah. That goes all
It's a
your.
slaughter.
Yeah.
It's a genocide. The genocide stops, and then they go back to not Netanyahu getting busted
Because
for corruption.
he was in hot water right up until
Yeah, he was.
October
Yeah, he
7th.
was.
So it's like
Yeah, he
that
was.
he loses his fuel, his kind of wartime president. I know he's not president, but thing. Not only that, and then it's also just the military industrial apparatus of like we're gonna go get this land. That also takes that from them, which is it's a very hostile act
I think
from
so.
Trump towards them.
If it happens, I mean, it could be just
Sure,
bluff, right?
but the statement itself is hostile,
I think so.
which I think is awesome. I'm Team America, but it is wild.
It's also stopping the genocide too. So if the U.S. walks in there, the Israelis aren't going to bomb that. It'll be
Well,
it'll be a
that's what
freaking
someone else said.
disaster.
They go, "You want those
It'll be a
bombs to stop
disaster.
dropping?
Yeah,
Go put an
yeah,
American outpost there.
yeah, if the Palestinians want to stop it, just say, yeah, we want the Americans here.
That would
That's
be
what I would
so
do. I mean, not
wild.
Hamas. I would say, yeah, you can have the whole land and let us whatever. I mean, that's how it stops, and that's how Netanyahu collapses. So
Yeah.
I think somebody said that was really. I mean, it was an interesting take because I follow a lot of geopolitical thinkers, and this one guy, Gilbert Doctorow, said, "This is Trump's. This isn't a mistake. He's outmaneuvering Netanyahu here,
Mm.
which is, if it happens, that could be it. But anyway, it does tie into this Night of Malta. Like maybe he's getting advice from people who are like, hey, we can put the whole power of the Catholic Church because we want to be back here. We're crusaders, man. I think Hegseth is on board with that kind of stuff.
100% he is.
That's my take.
Yeah, you can't really pull a USS. You can't pull a Liberty in 2025. You were able to do that because of control of consolidation of media and no internet, no cell phones. You can't do that. I mean, you could do the act. You're not getting away with it.
Right. I mean, I think 10-7 was a false flag that benefited Netanyahu. I think all the
100%.
stand down.
Yeah. I don't.
Hamas is financed by our tax dollars too.
Yeah,
it's just like goes
much like 9/11. It's and when I say I don't think our government did it, that's not because I think our government's good people who wouldn't do it. Not at all. I don't think they're dumb enough. I think in terms of because you have to have some degree of plausible deniability somewhere. And like if you were to let's just say you were to capture one of the 9/11 hijack, I don't know how, but let's just say you did that. You don't want to torture out of them that they work for the CIA. You want them to truly believe this is their plan. So I think the way to do these things is you could engineer them yourself, but if you want it to just look more organic, I think it's much more viable to you fund the groups, maybe seed the idea, and then you lower defenses. But you do want it to be a degree of authenticity. And
you need a body count.
Yeah. And it's not because I don't think that we would do 9/11, or it's not that I don't think the IDF would do October 7th. It has nothing to do with like we don't have the stomach for it. I think they're looking at it and going, well, it's better to have some disconnect somewhere of where it's like, yeah, that's not a CIA agent. That's someone that truly believes that it's like I'm Hamas true blue. Like,
They financed Hamas to undercut the PLO. So
absolutely.
This is all standard kind of media in Israel. We don't get that here, but they know, the Israelis know. But they really don't like the Palestinians. They have a real kind of
course.
They've been fighting for a long time, even before the founding of Israel. So
hey, real quick, tell everyone where to find your podcast. I gotta use the restroom real quick. Give me 1 second.
William Ramsey Investigates. You can check it out. Top 0.5 podcasts in the world. You can find it anywhere: iTunes, Spotify. I also have 5 books on a wide variety of subjects: true crime. I did a book on Crowley. You can find that on Amazon. And I have 5 documentaries on my Patreon. You can watch those for free. You just pay $5 a month. They're also kind of a visual kind of thing, kind of like this, visual about Crowley's impact on culture, the Smiley Face Killers, and I did one on occult Hollywood. So done a few things, but I've been kind of focusing. I also did a recent show on The Catcher in the Rye as a kind of a cultural critique. People might find that interesting. So you can find that on William Ramsey Investigates. And if you have any questions or anything, you can always send me an email, williamramseyinvestigates@gmail.com, or if you have any guest ideas or anything like that, I'm always interested in finding new guests or anything. I've taken a couple of Tommy's guests. They were great. But yeah, so this Knights of Malta actually is kind of timely. I think in even a broader context than Malta and the Knights of Columbus and all the stuff is kind of a more conservative, I guess, administrations in power with more of these types of people. I think understanding their worldview is different. It's a Christian worldview. I think maybe not Trump, but certainly the people around him are all pretty much intense, I would say, Christians generally. Not a lot of Jews. I mean, I think the Biden administration with the brains were mostly Jewish, Israeli,
Mm-hmm.
and so this administration's not like that. And Trump's kind of, I know that he studied some Kabbalah and stuff like that, but I don't know if he really comes out as a he's made statements that God saved his life in July
Yeah.
2024, which probably is true.
Yeah. No,
But
I was talking to my buddy last night. It's 1,000%. I have so many atheist friends who have actually turned to God in the last 6 or 7 months because they go, I've never had in my life been able to Occam's razor my way into a point where I go, the simplest example and the most likely explanation is that it was God. Like I've never been able to do that before.
it's incredible. It's an incredible change, even in this change in administrations. Like we were close to the world ending. Like I don't think
You,
people understand that.
if that hit them,
So
civil war breaks out at best. At
yeah,
worst, they replace them with whoever, and doesn't matter who wins. It's uniparty. It tamps down censorship. Tamps down. You'd never hear about USAID, let alone end it. We'd escalate in
true.
Ukraine. We'd escalate in Gaza. We'd escalate in Taiwan. The border would keep going, and then eventually civil war would pop off as people realize that you're in a zero sum game now, and every second you don't act, you're going to lose more. It was the end of the world.
I think you're right.
It looked
I think
like
that's not funny, but it really was. A lot of people didn't know it. Like a lot of my friends and stuff were in like a trance state. Like they didn't get the right
they thought it would have been
information.
bad. They're like, yeah, I don't want anyone to get shot. It's like, that was
Yeah,
that. It's like that was a that's not just a random Jenga block. That was the block.
yeah. No, it really was because
Yeah.
he hadn't announced a vice president yet, right? So it would have thrown the Republican Party into a chaotic tailspin. Like it was there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really incredible. Like we lived through incredible.
We are in a
times.
timeline that
Yeah.
we're in a timeline that infinite numbers of timelines talk about around a campfire in a bombed out building. They go, what do you think it's like in the universe where it didn't hit them? We're in that one.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. You should thank God, and
that's
there should be like a huge statue of. I'm not kidding. A huge statue of Putin
literally
somewhere in
every
the
day.
center of the country that he didn't try to, bomb the U.S. Like we're bombing. For people who don't understand, Ukraine is just the front. It's an intermediary before other powers. We installed this coke-headed fool
Of
in
course we did.
2014, and all this stuff is U.S. power. It's not European. Europeans are subservient to the U.S.
Yeah.
So the U.S. policies of these evil people who ran the country and let people in and rape your kids and rape women and steal all your money.
Ukraine
This
is
all-
Cuba, except it's not 90 miles of ocean. It's land that's touching.
Yeah. So
So it's not. This isn't the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is the Florida Missile Crisis.
These are it's so stupid. I mean, I keep saying that people whoever's doing this stuff, they want them dead. They're greedy. There's some of the Biden administration was full of some of the worst people since the Nazis. And
It's not
the most evil
stupidity.
people.
It's not stupidity.
No, it's not stupidity. I
It's
think they did
competence.
intentionally.
It is.
Yeah,
It is. I mean, there's truly no. I don't know. It's like this is like
They're evil. They're all
they're
evil.
pure evil. There's
Science, who's really running the show behind the scenes, and Sullivan, and
There are
Obama's
people that
involved
get-
in there.
There are people that get
Um,
accused of being evil that I go, that person's not evil. They're just kind of a piece of shit. They're greedy. They're, whatever, a bad husband cheats on their wife, but they're not evil. They're super alpha, whether it's an athlete or a politician. Like, that's just like a super testosterone guy that is probably not a good dad, but he's probably a good general, whatever. There's that. And then there's evil.
Yeah.
Where you go, yeah, they're making money. That's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because their eyes are black.
Yeah, they're evil. They've already
They're
made enough
evil.
money.
They're
They've made
evil.
enough money.
They
They've
control
already-
that. They don't need it. They literally make the money. They don't need to make money. They make the money.
Tommy, there's hundreds of billions of dollars missing.
Do you
Like,
see
the
last
public
night they
doesn't
said
understand.
4.7 trillion in untraceable
in
transfers from the Treasury.
In California alone, there's hundreds of billions of dollars missing. The public doesn't understand.
Yeah.
They haven't fully seen the kleptocracy and all of its malevolence at this point yet. Once they do, there will be a reckoning, and it's going to be, how can you have a nation when a significant part of it are stone cold criminals? Like, these are not evil criminals. Like, they filled the freaking cemeteries in Ukraine full of young men's bodies without ever saying sorry.
Without blinking.
Victoria Nuland hasn't said any sorry. What's the other guy? Who was the former Blinken hasn't said he's sorry. None of these people are apologetic.
No. It's I've always
And
considered
they're still
myself
around.
exactly. No, I've always. I mean, even in high school, I was reading books about the CIA. I've always been somewhat more red pilled than I guess other people my age. And then as the podcast has progressed, every year I say I thought I was red pilled, and now here I am. Even now, in the less than 30 days since Trump's been inaugurated, even now, I look back to just 2 months ago and go, yeah, I figured that there was like U.S. funded propaganda. The extent to which USAID was fun. I mean, I found out last night they were funding Mexico's efforts to push anti-Second Amendment in the U.S. Like, it, the number of like YouTubers who like have started coming out and saying like I'm not making money anymore. You go, what? Like,
Wow.
like you kind of assume certain level, like Mockingbird or Voice of America. You kind of assume high level propaganda. You find out that they were funding the lobbying, or they were funding the grants to like Amazon movie studios that would get a kickback or a tax break to push more LGBTQ in Lord of the Ring. Like, you start, I am shocked.
Just culture creation and
You
all the
just
stuff.
I always assumed like, yeah, they're probably infiltrated. I didn't the extent. And I guarantee next time you and I talk, I'm going to go, I thought I was red pilled.
Can you imagine them just totally gaslighting people for that long about how much, like, Soros is getting, his ability to screw up the whole system was paid by our tax dollars.
Yeah, it
Like,
wasn't
that's
even
incredible.
his money.
So all of these horrible prosecutors in main cities and things like that destroying the culture and the civilization were paid by our tax dollars. Like, San Francisco is where I grew up, and they've destroyed the downtown part of the city
It's
through this
gone.
USA.
Yeah.
It's full of drug dealers and people from Honduras that threaten the cops. Like, I'm going to kill the cops. And
Yeah.
there's like mob shootings and
Third
just
world
crazy stuff
shithole,
that never
yeah.
existed.
Yeah, no, it's and I
They're
think
evil. Like, what they did to these people's ability to make a living, and these beautiful buildings. Like, there was the Union Square used to be this thriving place of economic activity, but also cultural activity, movies and shows and theaters and people eating out on the street and just enjoying themselves. It's all gone.
and
It's all, I mean, the decimation of it, the total annihilation is like destruction of culture in general.
what's
It's
intentional, and then
incredible. Like, you just would never believe that would have happened. And it's a beautiful, like, the natural terrain of San Francisco
it's
is
incredible.
world class. Yeah, yeah.
It's, but I also I do look now and I go, I think it was a blessing that they stole the 2020 election, that we saw it, that we saw how bad 4 years were of a stolen election, and we saw them try to kill Trump. It's because I think now he's acting with a ferocity of like, I think he went in 2016 was like, yeah, I'm unpopular, I'm politically incorrect, like a shitty comedian, and now he's going in there like General Sherman. He's like, yeah, we're not.
He has to continue.
Well,
He doesn't have a choice.
well, that's the thing is people are like, cross the Rubicon. No, we're in the Rubicon now. If he doesn't finish this, we're in 5-10 years, they're gonna make the Biden administration look like a cakewalk. There is no
They're
coming
still
back
out
now.
there. That's what I'm saying. The criminals and the evil ones are still around, guys.
That's you
Like,
have to.
Are you able? Do
Yeah.
these guys have the spine to put these people in
Well, you
jail?
have to now. It is now. We are not cross. We're not. Let's cross. We are in the Rubicon now. There is no going back.
Yeah,
which is why they're taking out USAID. Which is why Trump deployed the Marines on the borders. Which is why we're doing all this. There is no. You got to play for keeps now, which is incredible. We're witnessing like a once in a millennia shifting of power.
Did you see the memorial for Jimmy Carter? like where Melania's crying.
No.
Yeah, no, it's like I call it the vampire ball because Trump is surrounded by just the most vicious freaking evil people. Like he's there with Hillary and Bill, right?
Yeah.
Then you have George Bush Jr. all over 9/11 and occultism and all that stuff. And then Obama comes in without Michelle. And we can talk about Obama and his gay stuff and man's country. And Tafari, do you know about Tafari Campbell?
No.
Yeah, Tafari Campbell was his chef.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then Garth Brooks pops out and sings Imagine. Like Imagine is not a Christian song, by the way. It's by Lennon. And Garth Brooks has a history himself. We could do a whole nother show about because people have tied him to some weird stuff. And we can do the name of Riley Strain, but he was in town. Like it's interesting disappearances of people who end up in water, much like Tafari Campbell.
You're booked on Smiley Face, right?
Exactly. Very good. It was a vampire ball all around Trump. And Melania, you could just tell her face. She could not compose herself, which to her credit, she's like,
they tried to kill her husband.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be a little upset
smiling
too.
And guffawing and
you all gotta. It's a weird game of like you all gotta smile and play nice.
The highest stakes chess. And interestingly, side thing is that Carter, when he died, he was put over this Jerusalem cross.
Blue Cross of Jerusalem, yeah.
Right. The same one Hegseth has.
Yeah. Shit, I completely forgot we're doing this. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, sorry.
No, all this stuff is coming together in weird ways. Okay. Knights of Malta Grand Priory meeting 2023. So this is still going on, the regalia. You see, this is Bergoglio, the current pope, has the same Maltese cross, red, white motif. You see a lot of this kind of overlapping with the Trilateral Commission. So you see a lot of the guys who are in the Pilgrim Society, are Knights of Malta as well, are also spooks from high-level families, Maurice Strong, things like that, Rockefeller. So, and a lot of these guys, a lot of the presidents, they usually they understand it's very important to have fealty to the Pope. So you'll see a lot of this. Sure. This is a really interesting guy, much like the one we talked about earlier, Virgil. This is Edwin Fuellner. He was the head of the Heritage Foundation from 1977 to 2013, and he was involved in it almost 50 years. But also, he's a Knight of Malta. And also, he has kind of like other connections. He's also a Knight of the Holy Sepulchre, too. So much like these guys who are Knights of Malta, who are overlap with the Knights of Columbus, they have different, they're affiliated with a lot of different orders. Very powerful people on the right, on the conservative right. And this is what I was talking about earlier, the tribute of the Maltese Falcon that kind of bled off into modern art film culture. But it's basically the Grand Master of the Order of St. John of Jerusalem had to pay an annual tribute to the Emperor Charles V and his mother, Queen Joanna of Castile, as monarchs of Sicily, for the granting of Tripoli, Malta, and Gozo. And the annual thing was one falcon. So that was it, the grant of, that's the Maltese peregrine falcon. I guess it's, if you're into falconry, it's supposed to be like a special bird.
Yeah, and that's for the, all right.
We saw the grant earlier. And then Maltese Falcon, great movie, classic movie, Peter Lorre, directed by John Huston, Humphrey Bogart, based on a book by Dashiell Hammett, Maltese Falcon. There's Humphrey with the Maltese Falcon. It's like the thing that drives the whole narrative is the Maltese Falcon. This is kind of like the Maltese Cross is like the symbol of one of the big secret societies at Yale. There was a big upheaval or kerfluffle or whatever you want to call it between Seymour Hersh during the invasion of Iraq. And there was an article, it was Seymour Hersh, The Knights of Malta and Me. It was about a talk he had where he was saying that all these guys who were involved in the Middle East were also kind of gung-ho crusaders. I think he's right. But it was JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command.
Yeah.
Stanley McChrystal. Hersh described an attitude among a large percentage of JSOC personnel as being anti-Muslim and driven by a crusader mentality. He quoted one individual as saying, "We're going to change mosques into cathedrals." That's an attitude that pervades, I'm here to say, a large percentage of the Joint Special Operations Command.
I've read
So
that
this
before. Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
kind of just a rubber stamp in time of like, I think this is 2011. I think it was Qatar. He gave a speech about it, and it also involved Opus Dei.
Yeah.
So it's probably one of the best known journalists in American history, Seymour Hersh.
So yeah. Well,
Eric
that's why
Prince on,
he's the one that said that. Sorry, he's the one that said the Nord Stream thing, right? And everyone was like,
yeah, he's done Nord
"Cy."
Stream.
They were
He's
like,
been,
"Cy Hirsch is a far right." It's like, oh,
yeah,
go,
it's a total
go,
joke.
shit in your hat.
A
Cy
lot of his
Hirsch is
far
far
right
right.
stuff is, yeah, the
Cy,
left just,
I get
yeah,
using that as a blanket, whatever you're doing that
yeah.
to Cy Hirsch. Far, oh come on.
He's Jewish. God, it's such a joke.
His entire history,
Um,
though, was just like the antithesis of like George Bush.
yeah. Anyway, God.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, Cy Hirsch just goes all the way back to Miley. If you remember the Miley
Yeah,
massacres.
no, he did all this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
He's
that was, I think, where he got what's the award? Not a Pritzker Award. He got
Pulitzer,
one of the
no,
journalist of awards.
Pulitzer, not Pulitzer, Pulitzer.
Pulitzer, thank you.
Yeah,
I don't know why I can't remember that. Anyway, here's Eric Prince on RT. This is 2014. He's saying he's the Knights of Malta, and he discusses the Knights of Malta tradition he followed under Bill Donovan. Back when we could get Russia Today. And so these are another list of knights: Prince, Baron Schmitz, Rupert Murdoch. We've done Casey Haig, Donovan, Federalist Society. Leonard Leo is kind of an unknown guy, but in the legal community, he's very well known, and he's installed 5 kind of conservative Supreme Court justice. The smart ones are conservative. I think that's objectively the truth. That's not my political opinion. That's some of these left-wing ones.
you ever seen
They're
the
stupid.
you ever seen the like the number of words spoken for justice? It's just
No, but I probably know the outcome. I can assume.
well, the bottom's Clarence Thomas, and it's like nothing, like on average, it's like not, and it goes, and it's just hilarious because it's just the higher up the top half, it's just all women. Just like
Wow, so they're doing all the talking. That's funny. That's funny. So here's they are Knights of Columbus. The guy on the far right looks familiar to me for some reason, but this I think is also St.
looks like a young
Peter's.
Rumsfeld.
Yeah, maybe. This is a guy by the name of Burke. So this is a Knight of Malta. He's making the initiatory symbol, but he was part of this thing called Dignitatis Humanae Institute, and this is the connection between Steve Bannon, who's still around. I think he does the War Room, and they work together. So this is kind of a Knights of Malta connection between Bannon and this guy Burke, who's a member. And then this is Alina Habba. We talked about her earlier. She's, she does all these kind of, I think she was representing him in some of the civil cases, but this is it. And this is her dad, Saad F. Habba, Janan Habba. And there she is. I mentioned Kellyanne Conway. So there they are together, the former and the present. So this is from January 13th, 2025. So not that long ago.
Yeah.
There's her dad with the Knights of Maltese cross, and this is his American Associated Knights of Malta, Chancellor Saad F. Habba. So he's in the governing council currently. There she is with Kash Patel, future FBI head. Eric Prince, Knight of Malta. This is we're talking about the shooting of Trump. This is him taking part in kind of looking into the assassination attempt. This was in Congress in August 2024. And his intro is, we are here today to discuss a tragedy for the USA that could have been the catalyst in the destruction of our republic.
Absolutely.
And he's right, just like you were talking about. So Eric Prince has been around. This guy Sean Ryan, I don't trust at all, but he was on that show. And then we talked about Seymour Hersh. But then this is another kind of interesting order. It's not the Knights of Malta. It's not the Knights Templar. It's the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, right? We showed the picture of the Holy Sepulchre with Rubio, right? The very beginning. So this is kind of an equestrian order, and it's under the protection of the Holy See, and it's to support the Christian presence in the Holy Land. And it goes back, and so you'll see some of these big wigs we're talking about are also Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, and this guy Filner was one of them. So this is the guy, the Heritage Foundation. And you'll see he's a Knight of Malta and a Knight of the Holy Sepulchre. So I think he's still around. I think he's among the living still. This guy is, if you like watch Trump or they have that New York gala or whatever, this guy's always there, Cardinal Dolan. And he did a talk about the Knights of Malta. He says, have you ever heard of the Knights of Dane and Dames of Malta? So I talked about the women's part of it. They do their magnificent apostolate rather quietly and humbly. Is right. Oliver North, sovereign member of the Knight of Malta, in addition to all other stuff. Here's Hegseth. This is the Knight of the Holy Sepulchre. So this is the Templar cross. It's not a. I don't know where his Knight of Malta tattoo. I couldn't figure out where that is, but this is really predominant.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is his biggest tat. And there's Roberts going into a Knights of Malta thing. They have like little offices all over the world. And this is a known kind of right wing commentator. He is Alan West, I guess, a former congressman. So he's got the red and white. I think it's either a Templar or re something. Knights. This is the King of Jerusalem cross, so that's what that cross is. Godfrey of Bouillon, back in the formation in the 11th century.
Yes.
It was the King or Queen of Jerusalem was the supreme ruler of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, a Crusader state founded in Jerusalem by the Latin Catholic leaders of the First Crusade in 1099. Godfrey of Bouillon, and there's James Earl Carter with the same thing, right? So we just saw Carter and this Hegseth character, who's now our Secretary of Defense, King of Jerusalem cross, right? Pretty similar. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So James Earl Carter, 100 years old. Crazy. Amazing long life. Just like there's Ireland has 850 years of the Order of Malta, so they go all the way into Ireland. There's ambassadors here. There's also this overlap with Teal and Eric Prince are friends, but Teal is a member on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, which I think is interesting. So here they are. Facebook founding director Peter Thiel and pal Eric Prince funded Cambridge Analytica data scam, which is kind of like that. Bannon was involved in this too. So you see this nexus of all these guys doing kind of right-wing online propaganda, I guess you could call it, influence nudging, whatever you want to call it. So you can go in deep. Eric Prince is one of the top donors to the PAC that paid for Cambridge Analytica's work for the Trump campaign. Peter Thiel, major U.S. political donor, is said to pursue Maltese citizenship 2022. So he's wanting to become a citizen of Malta. It's different than becoming a Knight of Malta, which he may be. I don't know. But notorious Eric Prince is advising Trump from the shadows. I think he's been doing that forever.
Mm-hmm.
There's other famous people who are Knights of Malta. This is Douglas Fairbanks. He's at a Maltese ball in Palm Beach. So they do have kind of social meetings. This is Philip Fairbanks with his Knights of Malta cloak or cape, I guess. And there's Fairbanks with Nancy Reagan and Grace Kelly. Interesting. He has his Knights of Maltese cross on his left shoulder. That's Douglas Fairbanks Jr. This is Edward giving a speech, Knights of Malta, right? This is what, 1933? Welsh and Welsh Priory. Here's Rose Kennedy at a Knights of Malta ball, right? So that's the mother of the whole family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they have kind of an impact on the city of London, or the downtown London or central, at Clerkenwell Priory. There's weird kind of connections all here. Lenin is around here. Marx is around here. Gandhi. They all have kind of a weird connection. This is Clerkenwell Priory, and they have a museum. So a museum of the Order of St. John. But you see all these colors and crosses and stuff. You see that. And this is actually at the Via Dolorosa. So for people who may not know what that is, that's the route that Christ took when he carried the cross to Golgotha. And so you have a order, Maltese order right there. So if you ever in Jerusalem and you retake those steps, This is it. It's been there. This is German. That's the Via Dolorosa. The way of suffering is what it means. It represents the path that Jesus took, forced by the Roman soldiers on the way to his crucifixion. And this is kind of getting into, I can do a whole nother thing on the kind of elite of Europe and the Knight of Malta, because they're all involved. All these, I've mentioned this before, all these big names. But like if you're from the Netherlands, you know Princess Beatrix. I think she was one of the people who supported the Bilderberg Society. Like she was behind it, but she's also a dame of the Knights of St. John. So you see the Maltese cross right here. So Maltese. This is Trump announcing Alina Habba, December 8th, 2024. I'm pleased to announce that Alina Habba will join my White House team as counselor to the president. So, pretty amazing. This is Leo, so he's a Knight of Malta. He's very much in the legal kind of field as a conservative. He's a devout Roman Catholic, big admirer, supporter of Opus Dei, and a Knight of Malta. But they have an international kind of thing, you know. So we've seen South Africa. Here's Kenya. This is Kenya. He's being knighted, Uhuru, into the Order of St. John. And that's about it. So, and then it goes all the way to the House of the Temple. I mean, I think that this, the Ark of the Covenant, they redid, a Jewish guy remade the Ark of the Covenant in gold, and it was at Trump's.
It's in Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago, yeah. So that's it. I mean, I think there's more to the story, but those are all my slides and stuff.
No, it's brilliant. I had no idea how old it was. I just always figured it was like, yeah, I don't know, like 100, 200. That's a different level when you get to 1,000 years, because then you start looking at like plans or directives or agendas that really can outlast nations. You go, oh, the U.S. has only existed in the last 25% of the Order of Malta. You go, oh, that's okay. I mean, you look at something like CIA operations or KGB, and you're like, it's been going on for 30 years, and you're like, wow, that transcends presidencies. This transcends nations.
Yeah, it does.
That's wild. I mean,
there were no nations in the Middle East as they are now that existed when the Knights of Malta started. So
that is insane. Yeah. So how do we? I'm just in your research. How do we know like when it definitively started? Like how do we? I mean, I'm sure it's in their like bylaws or history or whatever, but
I think it was because it was an offshoot of this Crusades, the first Crusade. So I think if you even went to Wikipedia, it would tell you kind of either the 11th or 12th century. I don't remember offhand.
It does kind of make you think in the same way that how much easier it'd be to, pull off propaganda just, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. It's objectively easier. There's only so many news stations. There's a gigantic financial barrier to entry in starting a news station, getting access to the airway. There's no internet. There's no fiber optic cables. There's no cell phones and Wikipedia and texting and Facebook. So it was much easier to silo information, which is why, it's not that people were stupid back then when you're like, oh, they bought the propaganda. No, there was no access to anything else, in the same way that our descendants will look at us like we're stupid. Going back even farther, because this starts to go, it's like, oh, is this, pre-radio? It's like, no, this is pre-printing press. Right. You could, then it's like, how many people can even read, let alone printing press? It's like, how many people, like, when was the mass still in Latin? And it starts going so far back that it's hard to truly grasp the power of these things. I mean, if they look powerful now, and there's pictures of people visiting these places all over the world, it's very difficult to even wrap our heads around what they were like 1,000 years ago. And I think an example would be, adjusted for inflation, when you look at Carnegie and Rockefeller, they're close to like a Bezos Musk now, like 300, 400 billion. A wild thing, and I think Tim Dillon actually pointed this out, is you have to look at, it's crazy enough, you have to look at the percentage of the economy that was in GDP. If you adjusted for that, That would be the equivalent of, I think they calculated it'd be the equivalent of Elon being having like 11 trillion right now.
Wow.
And then you start to understand the Gilded Age and the power of Rockefeller and the power of Carnegie. I think it's hard to really appreciate the weight of these, even just being able to take the writ and go get gold somewhere else. We don't think much of that now. It's like, yeah, you go to a bank. Doing that 500 years ago was, that was some kingly stuff. And then when you think about, there's no Cy Hirsch back in 1450. There's no like my breaking expose on the, the occult. No, you don't see any of that stuff. And if you do see it, you're killed and no one asks a question. Man, it kind of starts to, it puts the world, I think, in it, for me at least. You understand how these things happened. It was a lot easier to pull off nefariousness, or good, but I mean, tend to drift towards nefariousness.
I think you're right. I think they had a grip on information. They had informational
Mm-hmm.
monopolies, really,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that's very powerful. That monopoly is broken, if not, minimized. It's totally different just because of what you and I are doing right here, right
Yeah.
now. Like nobody, don't think, has done a presentation of Knights of Malta, as far as I've known. Like I haven't seen it online. So
If you and I did this 300 years ago, it would be in a pub somewhere looking over our shoulders, hoping we don't get
yeah,
stabbed by that guy who's been trailing
yeah, with
us.
the scroll, like you wouldn't believe this. There's all 300
Yeah.
guys,
And then
but then they,
I wouldn't even know if I'm like, is he telling the truth or is he a misinformation agent? And vice versa. You don't,
right,
versus
right.
now, it's like we're just talking about and just, speed of light, just, and it's just out
Like I
there
said,
now.
I'm not like this isn't a presentation where I'm saying these guys
No,
are all bad
there's no
news.
thesis. It's just,
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying this exists.
yeah.
It's amazing. It's a piece of history.
Yeah.
It's like Dan Brown's,
Da Vinci
what is
Code or
it, Da
whatever.
Vinci
Yeah.
Code or something, like real life. Like they're carrying on the Crusader tradition. And just like I mentioned, the CIA and all these guys, they have this kind of mentality, and I think that mentality is in the Trump administration now.
Yeah.
Whether Trump has it or not is up, not what I know, but I think that Hegseth and Prince, who's in there, and some of these other, and you can argue that it's like a teal group too. Like
Sure.
so many of these people are Vance are all associated with teal. So what are they talking about in their downtime if they're all hanging? Like they all know each other.
Yeah. What are they
Like
talking about
even
in a
what
skiff? Yeah.
you're on Rumble. That is
Yeah.
A Vance
Teal. Yeah.
property in Teal.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah. You gotta wonder what. Yeah. There is. I know for me at least, I always kind of make assumptions of like modernity, and therefore there are no more like crusades or religious minds. Like the people that do that are like Taliban coming out of a cave, and it's like no, they just know not to say it publicly. But it's like there isn't a, just because we have aircraft carriers and satellites, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden we're just not doing the crusades anymore. It's like, yeah, they're still.
right.
What do you think they're talking about in the skiff? I mean, and if these
Right.
guys are part of this and or faithful, you got to imagine they're looking at Trump and going like, "Oh, that was a sign that we're supposed to do this. This is our mandate
Right.
from heaven." I
Right.
don't even know if they're wrong. This is like your presentation. This isn't even me pro or con, just observing. It is the story is not the end of history. It is very much so
No.
unfolding in a
Yeah.
turbulent manner.
Francis Fukuyama's probably like hiding in shame
He's
somewhere. I
probably
don't
like,
know
man,
what.
I
Really
really,
shouldn't have titled that. Should have
man,
said this chapter's ending or something like that,
it's
right?
that's like a bad golf hit. He's like, I really shanked that. It's the end of history. You don't know, man.
Maybe somebody should give him a mulligan.
Yeah,
Like he should do a second edition with a different title. How about something like
yeah. I
that?
think you
Like,
could save it. Say that was wrong.
yeah. Oops.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's just oops.
but yeah,
Fukuyama.
no, I mean it's incredible stuff. Like we're I mean, interesting times, right? Like
If it wasn't so like nerve wracking and dealt with nuclear weapons and the fact that we almost fell into civil war and probably the end of the world last summer, which is still a crazy thing to just think about, that we just that just didn't happen. Like it is a weird sort of like trauma response for It's like a car almost misses you, and you don't really fully appreciate it until like a year later. You're like, man,
Right,
I was
right.
almost
You're
just
stunned.
yeah, yeah. It's a survival mechanism. That all being said, that the stakes are real. It is kind of fun that history is still unfolding. You don't really want you do because like you don't want suffering and stuff, but it's also boring. Like if everything was just calm and did world we solved world hunger and everyone's like that's all well and good and probably is something we should aim for, but in terms of like a story, it's like it's like you meditate long enough and like go through learn about Buddhism or asceticism or Christianity. You go farther and farther in and meditation and and don't be in the world but not of the world and don't be a slave to all your emotions and thoughts, and that's all well and good, but you can only meditate so many times before you realize you're like yeah, that's probably you can probably do that after you die and you shed the body. Like you can probably go experience stillness for 1,000 years if you want, but like you're here in the game, like you're in the theme park. Don't you don't go to Six Flags to like find steady ground. Like you're like no, you go there to get in a ride and maybe you'll die, but it's wild. That's kind of how I look at it. Is like I am too. It's horrifying at times, like last summer. It's also fun though. It is fun that we are alive, and it is history is very much so unfolding.
Yeah, it makes you feel alive. I
It
think
does.
knowledge of the Knights of Malta makes you feel alive. You
Yeah.
understand like some of the stuff that
Yeah.
they're not telling you about or that influences people. If you really kind of get through people's personalities, it's their religious conviction is really what drives
Mm,
them. So people who are Christians are looking back at the Holy Land. They know the Holy Land. So all eyes are on Jerusalem and what's going on there. So it makes perfect sense. The whole world really, I mean, it's hard to believe it's so obvious, but this one little piece of land, this one book went, after 2,000 years, the Grand Commission.
yeah.
And now this book is gone from all the way to Kamchatka, to Alaska, to Argentina, all over. And all these people have these ideas now, whether good, bad, or negative,
Sure.
or Catholic, or Protestant, or Orthodox, or whatever. But now, 2,000 years later, the earth is full of 8 billion people. And they're all looking back at this place where there's incredible events taking place.
It's
People are talking about the third temple. I just read again, they're going to do
yeah.
the red heifer sacrifice, like.
It's like if you were a fly on the wall in like the Pentagon or something. You it's like which one. I'm not saying which one's objectively right or wrong. I'm saying which one's more interesting. You just see them talking about stability in this region or removing an aircraft carrier, or do you want to hear them talk about like, or do you want to see them like turn the lights off and light candles and all put up their hoods? I'm like, I kind of want to see the second one. I kind of want to like which one's more interesting. I kind of want to see that one. I kind of want to see the generals like, all right, everyone turn your phone off. All right, under as per our orders. I'm like, yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
yeah, really. I mean, don't you think that those are other secret arrangements these guys have, like
Oh yeah.
Podesta and
Oh yeah.
all those guys? I mean, I think Podesta was the head of climate change or something, the last
Yeah.
stolen administration.
And all
So that
these,
guy's a
yeah.
nefarious figure as hell. Like,
And I'm sure all these orders are like battling it out.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I
why
mean, I
wouldn't
think you're.
they?
Would it? Well, right. I mean,
It's
imagine what we don't even know. Like I'm
that's what I'm
talking about,
saying.
I'm not a member of the Knights of Malta or this. Imagine like the warfare. Like, hey, Bob, we got a problem with so and so.
Yeah.
He's a communist or he's a Satanist. He loves Crowley.
Yeah.
It's our duty to get rid of him.
Yeah.
I had a guy on. I did a show about. He was a Christian, but he says that it's not. This is not biblically based, but there is in these kind of like high end Christian Protestant orders, there's this idea of purge. So if somebody's influencing negatively Christ's flock as a protector of that flock, you should take
Oh,
steps to nullify this person, which is kind of a euphemism for getting rid of them.
absolutely.
Like,
It's killing them.
and
Yeah.
so, yeah. So some of these people could have that rationale. Like, this is against Christendom. And I mean, it's happened in the past. So why wouldn't it be present? So why wouldn't some of these orders, like the Jesuits or Opus Dei, say like, hey, this guy's a freaking threat to the Holy See or whatever. Like, he's got to go. Like, I mean, that stuff happens.
And
It's
I
like Godfather 3 or something like that.
and like I don't even fully disagree in the sense that it's like when people say, "Oh, America's an empire." It's like, yes, it is. And number one, you would rather have America as an empire than China or Russia. You just would. If you say you're not, you're lying through your teeth. And then the dumber people go, well, I don't think there should be any empire. It's like, well, that's not how the world works. So, like, that as a preface, I look at this and I go, yeah, secret orders are going to rise behind the scenes with money and nations, and they're going to be off the books so long as they're existing, I'd rather have the one that's like a little, their central thing is Christ as opposed to like the Dark Lord. Like ideally, we wouldn't have secret orders that run the world. But if we're going to be adults and go, well, they clearly do, well, then I'm going to choose the one that's not about like eating babies under a full moon. I'm going to be the ones that, for better, despite their interpretation, they're trying to aim towards like Christ on the cross. If I have to side with one of the secret orders, that's what I'm going to do.
Right. I mean, I've done studies on like some of these dark orders, like the Order of Nine Angles. It's crazy stuff, man. They're dark. They believe in murder.
It's not
They're
LARPing. Yeah.
no, they're not LARPing. They're
Oh,
like Darth, like times 1,000 or whatever. Like I
yeah.
think that the people really, they're sick people, but they really have that view of like, hey, we're going to cool the earth. Like we believe in Darwinism. Like not everybody believes in Darwinism, but these guys do. Like let's do this. Let's kill off people we think have to go.
And it's more of like a blanket speculation, so it's like an intellectual cop out kind of. But I do then wonder, like, well, what about the organizations that we don't know of? There's got to
Right.
be some. There's got even in today where the free flow of information does reveal so much. There's got to be some like rich history of stuff that will never be put online that you only find about if you do become a king or a president, or you just
Yeah, I
hear
think
like
you're right.
whispers of it. Like,
I think you're right.
and if we know the name, then it wouldn't be it. So it's not the Illuminati or the. There probably are things where it's like, yeah, this has been going. This one existed. There's probably a whole secret history of like there was this sect that existed from 10,000 BC to 3,000 BC, and then this one took over, and it's been running since then. And all these
I'm almost
things, yeah,
positive. Yeah, like the Hashashin that came out of Persia,
yeah,
that existed. There's historical things where these assassins went after crusaders and killed them.
yeah,
So the crusader history has this thing of like this guy came out of nowhere and stabbed,
yeah.
Saint Joseph in the throat and killed him. Like those things happen. I don't think maybe it's around. I don't know if it's around, but I think you're right. I think there are. I mean, I can talk to you offline, but like I've done,
Oh shit.
unfortunately, a lot of research into the occult, and I think that there's a group that is super deep within the occult that doesn't have like an overt name, like they wouldn't
No,
even mention it in public. Yeah.
I'd absolutely love to talk offline about that. Do you want to do that?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up.
All right.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for watching. Let me stop
Recording
recording here.
stopped.
Oh, no, I can't leave the meeting because you're still here. Let me stop